Hi everyone and happy Tuesday. Sorry about my detritus there. Let's zoom in quick. You can't see that. Right. We're going to do a little bit more on the antlers now. I did say yesterday that I was going to go over them with a little more. I'm just trying to find the right colour that I wanted. I wanted the Bister. Here it is. Actually, it's a bit warm. I think I'm going to use the nougat. It's a little bit more grey, which is what I'm looking for. I'm going to go over the whole thing with this without worrying about doing any shading at the moment, just to give it a slightly more browny touch. You see, it looks a bit more like a French grey with a little bit of brown over. And that's what I want to start with for our little guy. And then we'll get a slightly darker colour to do a little bit of shape and shadow. I still haven't thought what colours I'm going to be doing for the back piece. I don't know whether they tend to have a particular colour, you know. Are they, is there a sort of standard thing? I would have thought it would be quite dark, but we've got these little patterns on as if there's some ornate part to it, you know. I'm just not sure. It's just not something, I think it's sort of big country houses, you know, might have that, or big posh houses. As I said yesterday, they had them in The Traitors. The TV show is called The Traitors. There is an American version which they film in the same place as the UK version. So I think if you've seen it, either the UK or the American, you might have seen it. But yeah, big grand hunting lodges, stately homes, that sort of thing, you know. I've been in a hunting lodge. It was quite fun. It was a ruined hunting lodge. I was on holiday and we had a little history tour. And we went to this site of the old hunting lodge. And it was sort of in the grounds of the place we were staying. It sounds very posh. It wasn't. It was a load of like wooden chalets in a nature area. But this was just some old abandoned building. And it was basically 2 stories high. The floor in the middle had gone and the roof had gone, so, and one of the walls, so it wasn't a lot, you know. You could see the fireplace at one end, but the fireplace was on the first floor, not the ground floor, because the ground floor was the servants' hall. They must have had a fire because it cooked. But the top floor had a big fire, and it was like where they had their sort of reception after they'd been hunting type thing. It wasn't a particularly big building, but I guess it would have just been friends, family. I guess it might have just been men. I'm guessing. I don't think women would have gone hunting. Would they? Or would they? I don't know. I mean, this was obviously going back a very long time. But what was quite interesting was that the whole time we were having this little talk, all you could hear was the buzzing of bees. There was a bee's nest right in the wall, which was really quite interesting. And but they were minding their own businesses, as bees very often do. You could just hear the noise. It was so loud. You could barely hear the chappie speaking at times, but it was very interesting. And yeah, I'm glad I did it, because I could have walked to that area without having the guide, because it was an open area on the site we were staying, but you wouldn't have known anything, you know. You wouldn't have had the story of what the building was and who they thought used it, you know, because they knew who had owned the land beforehand and that sort of thing. So all very interesting, I felt. Yeah, so it was good. It's actually in Wales. I was on holiday in Wales. You used to always go for a lot of Welsh holidays. I've taken the children to Wales quite a few times, and I went to Wales quite a lot as a child on holiday. The problem with Wales is it's quite wet. Rains a lot. But we're used to it. We live in England. It rains a lot anywhere, everywhere. But when you're on holiday, you sometimes want dry weather. But yeah. Right, I'm done with that. What I'm going to do is get the dark sepia now, and we're going to mark out some shadows. I might use a bit down here as well, but I haven't quite decided yet. So what I want to do is to go around the edges like this. I'm not pushing down too hard, and then just scumble it in. So we can put it on top of the black line a little bit. And what that does is it just makes it look a little bit more rounded. I keep hearing noise. Can't work out what's going on. Someone outside making a racket. Anyways. There we go. And just working my way around the whole thing really. You're going to want some shadow underneath the decorations as well. And there's quite a lot of background on this page. I did give some ideas yesterday on what I might want to be doing with it. It is an interesting thing because in Johanna's new book, people are like, oh, there's so much space behind and things like that. But actually, Johanna has always done certain designs with a lot of white space so that you're either free to do your own sort of background or just to leave it to breathe, as she says, without a background, you know. She's always done that. It's not, I heard someone said it was lazy. Ooh, I thought that was a little bit unfair. Anyway, but I would never say that. But you know, some people can make their own absolutely fantastically brilliant backgrounds, and they want to. You know, I know it's not for everyone, but each to their own. And I think it's quite good that she does different things so that everyone's got accommodated, really. Just trying to make it a little bit neater. Some of the areas look a bit scruffy, but hopefully it's beginning to look a little bit more 3D. And I'm just going to keep going with it and chatting, and we'll see how we go. It was really weird. When I was recording yesterday, I felt a bit bunged up, my nose felt a bit runny actually. But today I'm all good. It was very odd. It's like I had a cold for 3 hours. It was really strange. I don't know what was going on. But never mind. There we go. I'm just going to go across this bit. I don't want it too shadowy, but I missed a few bits. Now try and make sure you do scumble it in a little bit so that it doesn't look like you've just got a line. Down here, for example, it looks too liney, so I'm going to go right to the edge and then just put a bit more inwards on here so it looks a little bit more natural somehow. There we go. I've been thinking about when to put on my Christmas tree. I've got a few busy weekends coming up, and I would normally do it the weekend, but I don't think anyone's going to want to help me, so I guess it doesn't matter when I do it, really. It feels a bit early. I think it's the 20th. Yeah, it's only the 20th of November. A bit early. Some people put theirs up on the 1st, don't they? Halloween's over, up goes the Christmas tree. I'm not totally against that idea, but I think I tend to get bored of it all and I just want it away and tidy. So I think if I did start too early, it's going to start making me feel uncomfortable. We also haven't decided where we're going to put it. So that's another problem. Because I think I mentioned the other day that we moved the television slightly into the place where it usually goes. So I'm not sure what to do. I could put it behind the telly instead of by the side of it, but I don't know. Hopefully you can see a difference between the two. Hopefully the effort on this one is worth it. You prefer it. If you don't, well, don't do it. I mean, it might be a bit late if you're colouring along, but there we go. So the antlers are symmetrical. I expect she drew the whole thing with a you know, sometimes she shows us how to do it with tracing paper. So yes, she probably drew half and then put the other half in after. She might have used a computer. And but the ornaments aren't symmetrical. So I can decide whether I want to match the colours across. So do the ones up here the same colour and this one the same colour as each other. But I don't think I will. Or whether I want to do the two stars the same colour, but none of the other items are the same as each other. So, you know, I don't think so. So, you know, just little decisions to make. I don't make my Christmas tree match. Everything just looks like I sneezed in the ornament box and it all stuck on the tree. It's yeah, I'm not very good at making it neat. I try and have it even, so there's like an even muddly mess over the whole tree. A local food place was actually asking for donations of decorations, but they wanted balls and ribbons and fabric. But I've seen this trend this year to make fabric tinsel. So you use scraps of really brightly coloured fabric. Actually, my neighbour had a wreath on their door last year made from it, and it's sort of sari fabrics. Yes, and you have all these fabrics brightly coloured, and then you make tinsel, which is, I guess, much better for the environment because it's not plastic. I assume tinsel's made of plastic. I don't know, to be honest. But that was quite interesting, very brightly coloured. Pretty, I thought. I think they were from Oxfam, but I'm not entirely sure. I think I saw them for sale in Oxfam anyway. But I wondered if that was what this place was going to do, whether they were going to use the fabrics to make tinsel or bunting of some description, you know. But it's a lovely place. They do pay what you feel or what you can. So you can go in and you can pay for, I mean, I've only been in for coffee. So you can pay for your drink, or you can pay extra towards somebody else's drink who can't afford a drink or meal or whatever. They just put the money in the kitty towards things. Or you can just pay a bit less than, you know, if you can't afford the full price. But they tell you how much the items cost, the meals cost, because they buy the ingredients and pay their staff and things like that. So there are costs. They tell you how much it costs, and then it's up to you how much you want to pay, which I think is rather nice. Now, behind our deer, he needs to look like he's actually attached to this board, I think. At the moment, he looks like he's floating in front of it, but I'm not sure. I was thinking, I've got a few ideas. Is it sort of velvet, or is it wood? I'm just looking some up now, which is why I'm stuttering. They all look like they're wood, which is quite interesting. So they're all wood. Okay. Highly shiny wood. I'm thinking, well, maybe we need to go darker so he stands out from it. So maybe we'll grab, I'm going to use the burnt umber then. But what I'm going to do is just fit in, I'm just doing these bits while I remember. So leave the patterned bit, and we'll do that in a different colour. So we'll just fill in this bit, and I'm just going to block it in so it's really dark, and it won't necessarily look like wood because I'm not going to put wood grain in it. I'm just going to make it dark. The ones that I looked at were very polished and shiny, varnished. Quite difficult to get that look. With coloured pencils, I'm sure it's possible, but I haven't got all those hours. Well, yeah, I could, but I'd get very bored colouring the same thing for hours and hours and hours. But you know, There we go. Just put my phone back on the right place in case my kids get in touch with me. I already had one of them saying, can I remind him to make a community post when he gets in? Like, yeah, I can barely remember what I'm doing. But there we go. Just checking my battery level, it's okay. Because my camera's broken, basically you can't charge anything on it. You can't charge the battery because that receptor has broken. You can't charge the battery or export the files. It's the same USB thingy me what's it, you know. So yeah, I've got to run off battery, but we're okay at the minute. It says it's full, so hopefully it is. I don't always trust them, you know, battery indicators. On my vacuum, it'll say it's full, and then it'll just die. You know, it just doesn't work. The indicator thing doesn't work, so you just have to hope it's going to last. Usually does. So that's okay. There we go. It's okay, I'm going to do a bit the other side. I've got bored of doing that side. Now I find that trying to colour in a sort of solid, dark way is really hard. I find it much more difficult than doing a gradient or blending or anything like that. Getting things even I find hard, but some of you might find it quite easy. It's because I'm doing lots of layers and I need to do the same amount in each area, but it's difficult. But anyway, and Johanna was also doing an auction which I think ended on the 1st of December for Books Trust Scotland, so they can Books Trust give children books, you know, and she had done a bench, hadn't she, for them in the summer that she designed and was auctioned off. But this one is a picture, and I was having a look at the prices this morning. Now, because of the date they'd only been up a day, and her picture was got a sort of average amount of money bid for it, an original piece of her artwork, the Fox page from Wonderful Wildflowers. But there was an Axel Scheffer piece, and it had like almost 10 times what everyone else's had. It was a beautiful picture because it was colour. Like Johanna's is a black and white drawing, you know, of the fox, and of course the problem with the fox is it's her free giveaway, so we could all just print it and hang it on our wall if we wanted to. So I know it's not the same, but the Axel Scheffer one was a picture of the Gruffalo's Child and the Mouse by a Christmas tree. It was really, really cute. And I mean, if you're not British, the Gruffalo might mean nothing to you, but it's a children's picture book. So most of them were children's authors. I didn't really know many of the others, but they were very sweet little pictures, and it's a lovely way to raise awareness as well as make some money, you know, because I think a lot of people might not be able to afford to bid, but they might think, oh, it's a good cause, I'll give them a little bit of money, you know. And it's a nice charity, it's a nice idea, books. I'm going to do a food bank donation this month, coming up to Christmas. They've been asking for hamper donations so that they can give people sharing tins of biscuits and crisps, Christmas puddings, and you know, really all special things that you associate with Christmas, that it would be really sad if they missed out, that most people can afford. I mean, we don't do tins of biscuits and sort of tubs of sweets, things like that. We don't do that. But I used to as a child, and it was very much part of Christmas tradition to have a big tub of sweets in the house, and you would have a few, and then guests would come, you'd have something to give them, you know, and it would go round the room a few times. It was a nice little treat, that sort of thing that you wouldn't normally have the rest of the year. I think these days it's a little bit too easy for us to indulge in these sorts of things, and it tends not to be a rare treat perhaps so much as it should be. But back then, and of course for these families who are using a food bank, they can't afford to do that sort of thing, you know, at all, not even at Christmas, you know. So it's nice to be able to give a few bits and pieces, so I've got to do that. That's my chosen charity for the month, the food bank. And what I'll do is I will buy a few things that I think look nice and donate those. Yeah, I think last month I gave to the local hospital, so it's good. It's nice to choose a little charity to give a little bit of money to. It's really not very much that I give. It's just a very small percentage of the money that I make through my ad revenue on YouTube. This is brown ochre, and I'm going to do the edge. It's all very brown, but hopefully that will allow our Christmas decorations to really shine and stand out. Not literally shine, although you can, of course. Temptation is to just get out a glitter pen or a metallic pen and go for it, you know. But now you could do this bit in a more of a gold colour if you wanted to, which is what I'd done on one of the others, isn't it? Which I had considered, but then when I looked and saw they were all wood, I thought I'd just do it as if it's different shape of wood carved into it, you know. So I thought that might work, hopefully. There we go. Yeah, so I've got to make a decision about a camera. Do I get one the same? I mean, I'm getting a refund for the broken one, and I'm going to try, I will probably wait until that arrives before I decide, although there's some Black Friday deals around at the moment. As I say, it's still November, and if I bought exactly the same camera again, it would be cheaper than my refund. So I'd actually make a profit, which was not my intention, and is not really that cool, because you know, it's been quite the hassle and stress sorting it all out. So, you know, and I still haven't got the refund. I've just got to hope it gets there and comes through, you know. It's always a bit yeah. So you know, got to hope. And there we go. Now this background isn't very neat. I'm just going to go over a few areas again. I'm just going to sharpen my pencil better. I find it's easier with a really sharp pencil to just get around these little itty bitty bits. Just try and go right up to the edges, and just you know, make it look a tad neater around and about everything. I missed some of the other colour there. So yeah, sorry, this is just the burnt umber that I'm going back over with. Just trying to neaten it up. I find sometimes just adding a second layer can make a huge difference. Some people might prefer to blend or burnish to get that effect, but I prefer to go back with the colour that I was using in this sort of situation anyway. There we go, we're getting there. Just neatening. You might need some catch-up time anyway if you're trying to colour along. I know I'm very fast, I'm sorry. But I think if I went your pace, I don't know if it would get... I mean, some of you probably do go my pace. There's always going to be an element of having to stop because you've got to go and grab the right colour and that sort of thing. But I'm not sure if I left you time to do that, whether it might just get a bit boring, especially for the people who are watching and not actually colouring this particular picture. I don't know, but anyway. Now I'm going to grab my other colour that I used, the brown ochre, to go over these, which for some reason I just didn't seem to colour in at all. There we go. There he is. Now what I'm just going to do as a last final bit is, I'm going to use a black and put in a bit of shadow just around our deer. And hopefully he'll look more like he's quite close to the backboard. I don't know what it's called. Rather than sort of floating in front, I just went right over the line there. I'm a bit annoyed about that, but hey ho. No one noticed, no one's watching. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. There he is. Now, I'm wondering whether to leave that here. Having done that, it seems like a good place to stop and to come back tomorrow and do all the ornaments, the beads and the background, because I don't think, you know, I'm looking at how long I've been. I don't think I can fit all that in to the same amount of time as the last video, for example. Maybe we'll just do these little bits here today. Let's come in close to those, do those little bits and then leave the rest. Let's do that. So what colour are these? Well, I'm quite liking the idea of trying to do them gold and silver. So I'm going to choose a colour for my gold and a colour for my silver. So I've picked these two. So this is the coal grey 4 and the green gold. Okay, and we're going to sharpen them. And I'm going to start with the gold now. I'm going to put a little bit at the bottom and then fade it. A little bit at the top and fade it. And we're going to do the same for every one of these triangles so that we've got a bit in the middle that looks like it's catching the light and shining. And we're going to do the same with this one. All the way along like that. Then we're going to grab our grey, which is the, oops, I'll just draw with it on the page. Cold grey 4. Do the same thing, obviously in the gaps. Try and get your line to line up. I was a bit rubbish then and didn't. It's a bit high. There we go. Now you might want to leave it there, but I'm going to just put in, whoops, it's going to fall on the floor, and some darker colours. So I'm going to use my burnt umber on the edges of these gold ones, just to make a bigger contrast between the dark and light, and it makes them look shinier, I think. Like that. And then for the, what have I got? No, not that. Let's use this. This is the cold grey 6. This will work. So cold grey 6, and again, just top and bottom. There we go. So it doesn't really stand out, does it? You can't see very well, but when I come out of here, it doesn't really stand out that much. I think maybe if I'd done it like red and green or something like that, it would have stood out better. But never mind, it is now done. So that is our next step done. Yeah, we're going to do ornaments, beads and background. I think the background's going to be really quick. I've got this really quick idea, which I hope is going to work. So we'll see. We'll find out. But I am going to go now, so have a bit of a rest. I'm quite tired. But thank you for watching. I do hope that you have a really super day, and happy colouring.